The sun poured through the glass walls of the mansion like golden syrup, bathing the large living room in warmth. Everything in the room screamed wealth, from the white marble floors to the chandelier that cost more than most people's cars. Yet, in the middle of this beauty, Chijioke sat like a statue, eyes fixed on a single painting. It was a lion, proud, wild, and fierce. It reminded him of who he used to be before the doubts crept in. Something wasn't right. Chijioke was a billionaire in the city, famous for building one of the most successful tech companies in Africa. He had cars, a mansion, staff, and a wife many men could only dream of. Makira. A woman whose beauty could stop traffic. She had skin like honey, eyes that sparkled, and a smile that won people over. But lately, Chijioke felt cold around her. There were no more long talks. No more shared jokes. No more passion. Just suspicion. As he stared at the lion, the sound of slippers brushing the floor reached his ears. "Papa," he said without turning. Chief Obin, his father, walked into the room with quiet power. Though old, his steps were deliberate. His white kaftan was clean, but simple. His walking stick tapped the floor gently. "My son," he said, sitting beside him. Chijioke didn't say anything. "Why do you look like a lion who lost his roar?" Chief Obin asked softly. There was silence. Then Chijioke said, "Papa, do you believe Makira really loves me?" Chief Obin narrowed his eyes. "You tell me," he replied. And that was when Chijioke whispered something his father never expected. "I don't trust her anymore." Chief Obin leaned forward on the sofa, his face now serious. He had seen a lot in his life: war, wealth, betrayal, and brotherhood. But hearing his son question his wife's love was something he never thought he'd witness, especially not from Chijioke, the man the city once called the Golden Lion. "What happened?" the old man asked, eyes fixed on his son. Chijioke rubbed his hands together and shook his head slowly. "I can't explain it, Papa. It's just small things. She doesn't touch me like before. She doesn't even look at me unless she wants something. It's like I'm a wallet, not a husband." Chief Obin nodded slowly. "Has she cheated on you?" "No, not that I know of," Chijioke replied quickly, then paused. "But sometimes I wonder if she's just waiting. Watching. Planning." The old man's fingers tapped gently on his walking stick. His mind raced, but his voice remained calm. "My son, a woman's heart is a river, sometimes deep, sometimes dirty, sometimes clean. You must swim carefully." Chijioke chuckled bitterly. "Are you saying I married a river that wants to drown me?" Chief Obin didn't smile. He leaned closer. "Maybe. But we don't guess when life is on the line. We find the truth." Chijioke turned to face him. "How?" The old man's eyes gleamed. "We test her." Chijioke blinked. "Test her?" "Yes," Chief Obin said. "Let me become the gateman in this house." Chijioke sat back, confused. "What?" "I'll dress like an ordinary man. Move into the boys' quarters. Act like I was just hired. She will not recognize me. I'll watch her. Talk to her. Listen to her. And you will act normal." Chijioke laughed suddenly. "Papa, this isn't a Nollywood movie." Chief Obin didn't flinch. "It's your life. Do you want to wake up one day and find your money gone, your name ruined, and your heart broken? Or do you want to know the truth before it's too late?" The room went silent. Chijioke stared at the lion painting again. The king of the jungle. Strong, but alone. "Are you sure you can do this, Papa?" he asked. Chief Obin smiled for the first time. "I fought in the war disguised as a trader. I hid in the forest for 6 months pretending to be mad. You think pretending to be a gateman is hard?" Chijioke exhaled deeply. His heart beat fast. "Fine. Let's do it." But even as he said the words, a strange fear settled in his chest. What if Makira failed the test? What if the truth was worse than he imagined? And just like that, the plan to uncover the truth began, a plan that would turn their home into a battlefield of secrets. 3 days after that intense conversation, the plan was in motion. Chief Obin arrived early in the morning in a rusty yellow taxi. He wore an oversized faded shirt, old sandals, and carried a brown plastic bag that looked like it had been through a war. His usual air of authority was gone. In its place was a slouched figure, tired-looking and wrinkled. Even his voice changed, now slower, raspier, and unsure. The security man at the gate almost turned him away. "Who are you looking for, old man?" Chief Obin cleared his throat and spoke like a poor villager. "They say they need new gatemen here. I hear it from market." The man squinted, then called one of the domestic staff. Minutes later, Chijiok himself appeared outside, pretending not to know the man who had raised him. He waved his hand like a rich man too busy to care. "Yes, yes. He's the one I told you about," he said coldly to the guard. "Let him stay in the small room beside the security post." "Yes, sir," the guard replied. Chief Obin gave a small bow. "Thank you, Ogre." "God bless you, sir." Chijiok didn't respond. He walked away, heart pounding in his chest. Makira was still upstairs, fast asleep. By afternoon, Chief Obin, now calling himself Barber John, had swept the compound twice, cleaned the gate area, and washed the cars. Sweat poured from his face, but he didn't mind. His real job was not to clean. It was to watch. When Makira finally came out, she looked breathtaking, as always. Long straight weave, a tight yellow dress, and high heels that clicked like bullets on the marble floor. She didn't look at Barber John. She didn't greet him. She passed him like he was a bag of trash sitting on the road. Still, Chief Obin remained calm. This was just the beginning. By evening, Makira sat by the pool, sipping wine. Her phone was glued to her hand. She laughed loudly while talking to someone over a video call. Barber John was watering the flowers nearby, his ears open. "Yes now," Makira said into the phone. "Chijiok is still asleep. You know he works too hard. But I'll handle him. I always do." Chief Obin's heart skipped a beat. Who was she talking to? That night, as he lay on the thin mattress in the small security room, he thought deeply. The compound he once built for his family now felt strange to him. His daughter-in-law had treated him like he didn't exist. And the way she spoke on the phone. This was more than a test now. It was a mission. The next day, Chief Obin planned to test her again, not with questions, but with attitude. He would make small mistakes, delay her car, forget to open the gate on time. He needed to see her true face. Because something told him that behind Makira's beauty there was a storm waiting to explode. The next morning, the city sun rose early, bouncing off the rooftops and chasing the shadows from the compound. Birds chirped, cars honked in the distance, and the wealthy neighborhood began to come alive. Chief Obin, still in his disguise as Barber John, was already awake before the staff. He had swept the compound and washed one of the cars. His back ached, but he didn't complain. He had a mission. Makira had not seen him properly the day before, only in passing. But today, she would notice him. Just after 8 a.m., the door to the mansion opened. High heels clicked sharply on the tiled pathway. It was Makira, looking like she had stepped out of a magazine. Red gown. Silver earrings. Expensive sunglasses. Her perfume filled the air before she even reached the car. "Hey," she snapped, pointing at Barber John. "What are you doing?" He turned slowly, his face dull and confused like a real gateman. "Good morning, madam." She frowned. "Good morning for what? Why is my car not running? I told the other staff I'll be leaving early today." I am sorry, madam," he stammered. "I was about to." She didn't let him finish. "Do you know how much this dress cost? And you think I'll stand in the sun waiting for you to do your job? Useless old man." Chief Obin bowed his head low, silent. Makira walked past him and pulled out her phone. I told Chijioke to stop bringing these village people to work here. Always slow and smelling like frustration. She said it loud enough for him to hear. Still, Chief Obin didn't respond. His heart burned, but he swallowed it. He had been called worse in the past, during the war, during business deals. But hearing it from his own daughter-in-law, who didn't know she was insulting her husband's father, struck a deep nerve. He quietly opened the car door for her and stepped back. Makira entered without saying thank you. She was still on the phone as she drove off, laughing and shouting into the speaker. Once the gates closed behind her, Chief Obin walked slowly back to his small room, his body weak but his mind alert. Now he had seen it. She hadn't greeted him. She had shouted at him. She had insulted his smell and age. All without knowing who he really was. But it didn't stop there. By late afternoon, he saw her return with shopping bags, expensive designer labels. She tossed them on the floor and shouted at one of the maids for not wiping the stairs properly. Then something unexpected happened. Makira received a call and her mood changed instantly. "Yes, baby," she said sweetly, walking upstairs. "I miss you too. You know I have to pretend here. Let me call you later when he's asleep." Chief Obin stood still behind a flower pot, listening. This woman, his son's wife, had another man. And she wasn't even trying to hide it. He clenched his jaw. The plan had just started, but the truth was already showing its ugly head. Tomorrow, he would test her even more. The first encounter was over, but the real face of Makira had only just begun to show. Chijioke sat alone in his study that night, pretending to work but truly lost in thought. The city outside glittered with lights, but inside him, darkness brewed. His laptop screen blinked with unread emails, but his eyes were fixed on a framed photo on his desk, his wedding day with Makira. She looked radiant in the picture, smiling with all her teeth, eyes filled with what he once believed was love. He remembered how proud he felt that day, how every man in the room had envied him. She was everything he thought he wanted: beauty, poise, class. But now? Now, doubt was crawling into his heart like a thief in the night. His phone buzzed. A message from his father, or rather, Barber John. "She shouted at me today. Called me a useless old man. No respect. No hello. And she was on a call. Called someone baby." Chijioke swallowed hard. This wasn't a movie. This was his real life, cracking under the weight of secrets. He thought back to the early days of their marriage. Makira used to kiss him before he left for work. She used to cook for him on Sundays. They used to dance together in the kitchen. But lately, she barely spoke unless it was about money. She was always out, spa, shopping, parties. Always dressed like the world was her runway. He couldn't tell when the shift happened, but it had. And now, his father's message was confirming what his heart had long feared. Still, maybe it wasn't what it seemed. Maybe she was just stressed. Maybe the person on the phone was her cousin. Maybe. A knock on the door pulled him out of his thoughts. Makira walked in, wearing a silky nightdress that hugged her body perfectly. "Hey baby," she said with a soft voice, acting sweet. "Still working?" Chijioke blinked and nodded. "Yeah. Just emails." She walked over and wrapped her arms around his neck from behind. "Don't stress too much. You work too hard. I've told you, you should hire more people to help you." He didn't say a word. He couldn't. His mind was racing. This woman, was she pretending now? Was this the same person who had insulted an old man only hours ago? Makira kissed his cheek and walked out, hips swaying. Chijioke sat still, feeling cold inside. He picked up his phone and texted his father again. "Keep watching her. Don't stop. I need to know everything. Every detail." Because Chijioke knew. Once a man starts to doubt his wife, nothing, not money, not beauty, not time, can ever truly silence that doubt again. And in his heart, the lion inside him was no longer just uncertain. It was waking up. The next morning came with clouds heavy and grey, as if the city sky could feel the tension rising inside Chijiok's mansion. The compound looked calm, but something beneath it had shifted. Every word, every movement now had meaning. And Barber John, the fake gateman who was truly Chief Obin, was ready for the next test. By 7 a.m., Makira was already outside in her robe, shouting at the housekeeper for forgetting to iron her dress the night before. Chief Obin swept the front of the house slowly, watching, listening. "Do you think I live in a zoo?" Makira yelled at the maid. "You want me to walk around wrinkled like your cheap uniform?" The maid mumbled an apology, head bowed, and hurried back inside. Makira turned toward the gate, where Barber John was sweeping. She called out, "You! Barber!" Chief Obin turned with slow humility. "Yes, madam." "Come here," she ordered. He walked over quietly, head low. "Why are you always sweeping?" she snapped. "Don't you know how to wash car engine? My husband's car was smelling yesterday. You don't know how to do anything." I will learn it, madam," he said softly. "You better," she barked. "Because if I hear another complaint, I'll tell my husband to sack you and send you back to your village." She flicked her wrist like she was chasing away a fly, then walked off with a huff. Chief Obin stood still for a moment, chest rising and falling slowly. It wasn't just the words, it was how easily they left her mouth. No kindness. No shame. She hadn't asked if he had eaten. Not even a good morning. And worse, she spoke about Chijiok like he was a fool. Like she controlled everything. Back in his small quarters later that morning, Chief Obin pulled out his small notepad and wrote in his neat handwriting. Day 3, called me useless again. Insulted maid. Threatened to sack me. Zero respect. Full control. He tore out the page, folded it, and slipped it into an envelope labeled for Chijiok's eyes only. Around noon, something strange happened. One of the housemaids, a quiet girl named Ifunanya, brought him food in a small plastic cooler. "Madam said I should give you this," she said. Chief Obin raised a brow. "Madam Makira." "Yes," the maid replied, then added quickly, "but she said to tell you it's from her driver. Leftover from his breakfast." He opened it. It was cold white rice and dry beans. No meat. No water. Still, he smiled and said thank you. He knew what this was, not kindness, but control. A reminder of where she thought he stood in the house. Even his meal had to come as an afterthought. But as he sat and slowly chewed the cold food, his mind was burning. Makira had revealed more of herself. And what he saw wasn't pretty. Later that night, he stood by the gate again. This time, he didn't greet her as she returned. Makira rolled down the window. "Why are you staring like that?" she snapped. I was just watching if it would rain," he said calmly. She scoffed. "Face your job, old man." The gate rolled shut behind her as she drove in. And just like that, Chief Obin confirmed something deep inside him. This woman didn't just lack respect for strangers, she lacked it for humans. Now he was more determined than ever. Because respect is like a thread, once it breaks, nothing stays together. Night had fallen over the city, and the mansion glowed under soft golden lights. Outside, the air was cool, and the gentle hum of distant traffic echoed in the background. Inside the compound, everything seemed quiet, but not for Barber John, the fake gateman who was really Chief Obin. He was alert. Waiting. Watching. He knew by now that Makira was not the woman she had once pretended to be. But today, he planned to catch something bigger, something she couldn't deny. It started around 11:20 p.m. The house was dark, and most of the staff had gone to bed. Chief Obin, lying quietly on his hard foam mattress, heard it, the soft creak of the back balcony door upstairs. He crept out, slipped on his rubber slippers, and crouched behind the flowers near the boys' quarters. Then her voice floated down from above. Soft. Sweet. Different. "Baby, you're so stubborn," Makira whispered, laughing. Chief Obin's old ears perked up. "No, not yet." He's in the study, always working. Always distracted. Ooh, I can't wait for your tickets to be ready. I'm tired of this house. Pause. Giggle. I wish I could be with you tonight. You know how much I miss you. Another pause. Longer this time. She giggled again and said, Stop. You're naughty. What if someone hears me? Chief Obin's fingers tightened around the edge of the wall he crouched beside. His chest was still, but his heart raged. He stayed there, hidden, and listened for another 7 minutes. She didn't mention names. She was clever. But her tone said it all. This was no cousin, no brother, no innocent friend. This was betrayal in its purest form. Then something strange happened. Okay, listen, she said. There's a gateman here now. An old man. I don't like him. He's always looking at me like he knows something. I might tell Chijiok to sack him. Maybe next week. Chief Obin's eyes narrowed. So now, not only was she cheating, she was planning to get rid of the very person trying to protect her husband. He waited until she finished and went back inside. Then, he stood in the darkness, his white hair catching the moonlight, his fists clenched. This wasn't just about a spoiled woman anymore. It was about a snake in the house. A snake pretending to be a queen. The next morning, he didn't speak to anyone. He swept the compound like usual, but his mind was far away. He thought of Chijiok as a boy, how he used to run around in small shorts and cry when he scraped his knees. How he had struggled to build his business, brick by brick. How proud he was on his wedding day. And now, that same son was living in a house of lies. Chief Obin entered his room and pulled out the second envelope. He wrote, Day 4, secret call. 11:20 p.m. spoke softly. Flirted. Promised future plans. Wants to fire me. Warning, she is dangerous. He sealed it and stared at it for a long time. He had proof now. Real proof. But the question was, when should Chijiok see it? For now, he needed more. Because when you're exposing a liar, you don't stop halfway. Chijiok sat in his car outside one of his construction sites, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. His mind wasn't on business. It hadn't been for days. All he could think about was the growing storm back at home. Another message had come in that morning from his father, hidden in a plain white envelope, delivered through a trusted office driver. The contents? A note that read, Day 4, secret call. 11:20 p.m. spoke softly. Flirted. Promised future plans. Wants to fire me. Warning, she is dangerous. That line, she is dangerous, kept repeating in his mind. He leaned back in the seat, closed his eyes, and let out a long breath. For years, he had built his life like a fortress. Careful. Strategic. Always in control. But now, everything felt fragile, like one careless wind could blow it all away. His father wasn't a man who exaggerated. If he said something was wrong, something was wrong. But Chijiok needed more than just words. He needed proof. Cold. Clear. Undeniable. And that's when the idea came to him, hidden cameras. Not in the open places, no. Makira was too smart for that. He would plant them in 3 locations. 1. The main living room, where she took most of her calls. 2. Her favorite dressing room, where she often talked while getting ready. 3. And most importantly, the backyard balcony, where the late-night call had happened. He wouldn't ask a company to do it. Too risky. Too many eyes. Instead, he called his old university friend, Kunnel, a quiet tech guy who now installed discreet surveillance systems for private clients. That evening, they met at an exclusive lounge far away from the mansion. No names, Chijiok said. No paperwork. No trace. Can you do it? Kunnel took a slow sip of his drink and nodded. I can do it. But you have to be sure. Once I plant those cameras, you'll see everything. And not everything you see, you'll like. I'm already sure, Chiji-ok replied. I've never been more sure in my life. They agreed on a time. 2 nights from now, Makira would be out of the house attending a high-profile women's networking dinner. That would be the window. As Chiji-ok drove home that night, the streets of the city looked the same, busy, loud, full of life. But inside him, something was shifting. This wasn't just a test anymore. This was war. And he was ready to find out who his wife really was when no one was watching. Because even in the most beautiful mansion, a snake can live behind golden curtains. The city was alive that night. From the rooftop of Chiji-ok's mansion, you could hear distant horns, music from a nearby bar, and the hum of late traffic. But inside the compound, silence ruled. Makira had just left for her women's networking dinner, dressed in a red-fitted gown that turned heads as she walked past the gate. Chief Obin, standing by his post, watched her leave without saying a word. She didn't even glance at him. 10 minutes later, Chiji-ok's silver SUV rolled quietly into the compound. He stepped out alone, eyes scanning the surroundings. Chief Obin walked toward him slowly. She's gone. Chiji-ok nodded. You're sure she won't come back? She's with that group of flashy city women. They don't return before midnight, Chief Obin said. You have time. Chiji-ok opened the back door and Kunnel, the tech installer, stepped out with a slim black backpack. Let's go, Chiji-ok said. Kunnel looked around. Big place, he whispered. Too many corners. Focus on the 3 we discussed. They moved like shadows. Inside the house, the air smelled like lemon polish and expensive perfume. Kunnel unpacked his tools in silence while Chiji-ok led him through the mansion. First stop, the living room. Kunnel slid behind the wall panel near the TV shelf and placed a tiny pinhole camera facing the sofa. It had audio, infrared, and was linked to a secure app Chiji-ok could access anytime. Done, he whispered. Next, the dressing room. This was Makira's favorite space, full of high heels, designer bags, wigs, and glowing vanity lights. Kunnel placed the second camera behind a small vase on the makeup table. The lens was invisible to the naked eye. Done, he said again. Last stop, the backyard balcony. The same place where Chief Obin overheard the late-night flirtation. Chiji-ok had never even stepped onto that balcony before. It was her private corner. Kunnel hid the camera beneath the potted plants beside the chair she always sat on. This one had a wider angle. It would catch her face clearly. All 3 installed, Kunnel said, packing up. You'll get alerts when motion is detected. Recordings saved automatically. Chiji-ok nodded, expression unreadable. As they exited the house, Chief Obin was waiting at the gate. You're done, he asked softly. Yes, Chiji-ok replied. Now we wait. Chief Obin gave a slow nod. She's going to show you who she really is. Chiji-ok looked at his father, his eyes tired, heart heavy. I hope not, he said. But if she does? I need to see it for myself. The SUV drove out silently, disappearing into the night. Back inside the house, the cameras blinked silently in the dark. Watching. Waiting. The mansion looked the same. But nothing was the same anymore. Makira had no idea her next move would not be a secret. She was about to walk into a trap she couldn't see. The following day started like any other in the city, the streets busy with impatient drivers honking their horns, vendors shouting prices, and radio stations blasting morning news and gossip. But for Chiji-ok, the world had changed. He sat in his private office, the door locked, blinds drawn, and his laptop open. Kunnel had sent him the access codes to the hidden camera footage at 6 a.m. sharp. Chiji-ok hadn't touched his breakfast. His phone was off. His eye stayed on the screen as the video began to load. The first recording was from the living room. Timestamped 9:42 p.m. the night before. Makira walked in, heels clicking on the marble floor. She wore her red gown but had kicked off her shoes and held a glass of wine in her hand. She dropped her handbag on the chair and stood in the center of the room, swaying slightly, then turned toward her phone. He couldn't hear her yet. He clicked the audio button. A voice, hers, clear, unguarded. "He still doesn't suspect anything," she said into her phone, smiling. There was a pause, then a low chuckle. "Babe, I'm serious. You need to calm down. The plan is still going smoothly." Chijioke leaned forward. "Plan?" She walked closer to the window, the glass of wine almost empty. Her voice lowered, but the audio picked it up clearly. "Yes. We'll travel once the money clears. I already told you, once he transfers the 60 million to that dummy account, we disappear." Chijioke froze. 60 million? Dummy account? Disappear? His breath caught in his throat. He rewound the video, watching her body language again. Relaxed. Confident. Almost rehearsed. Makira had always been sharp, but now she was a stranger. He clicked to the dressing room footage. This one was quieter. She stood in front of her mirror, applying lotion, laughing into her phone again. "He's such a fool," she said casually. "Always working. Always trusting. I just smile and he melts. Honestly, I thought it would be harder." Chijioke's hand tightened around the mouse. He wasn't sure what hurt more, the betrayal or how easy it had been for her to play him. He clicked the final video. The balcony. This was later. Around 11:15 p.m. She sat curled up on the chair, barefoot, whispering. "Yes, he brought a tech guy to the house today. I think it was about business, but I'm not sure. Either way, don't worry. If I sense he's getting suspicious, I'll cry or seduce him. It always works." Then she laughed. Not a sweet laugh. A cruel one. The kind of laugh someone gives when they believe they're untouchable. Chijioke sat frozen, staring at the screen. The videos kept playing. Her voice repeated. Her smiles, her lies, her secrets, now recorded and staring back at him. He wanted to scream. But he didn't. Instead, he sat back slowly, folded his arms, and whispered to himself, "So this is who you are." He closed the laptop gently and picked up his phone. For the first time in 2 days, he turned it on. He scrolled through his contacts and stopped at the one marked Chief Obin. He didn't call. He simply sent a message. "You were right. It's time." Rain clouds gathered over the city like silent witnesses to the drama about to unfold. The streets were wet from a sudden drizzle, and the wind carried the scent of damp earth and tension. Inside the mansion, Makira was in the kitchen, supervising the housekeeper. She looked calm, flawless as always, dressed in silk loungewear, her voice soft but firm. "Use the gold tray for the guest room," she said. "And tell the driver to wash my car before 4 p.m. I'm attending a charity dinner this evening." As she walked toward the living room, her phone buzzed. It was a text. "Unknown number. I'm coming to see you. Prepare yourself." She stared at it, brows furrowed. No name. No emojis. Just cold, clean words. She deleted the message. Minutes later, she heard a knock at the gate. Makira glanced through the window and frowned. It wasn't the delivery guy. It wasn't Chijioke either. It was a black Jeep, dusty and unfamiliar, parked just outside. Chief Obin, who had been sweeping the front compound slowly, stopped. His back was stiff. His hands froze on the broomstick. His eyes narrowed. He knew that car. Makira stepped outside, her fake smile ready. "Who is that?" Before he could respond, the gate creaked open. Out stepped Mrs. Nena, Chijioke's mother. A woman no one had seen in 2 years. Tall. Elegant. Eyes like fire. She wore a plain brown wrapper, head tied with a matching scarf, and walked with the confidence of someone who feared no one. Makira's smile faltered. "Mama Nena," she stuttered. "Yes," Nena said coolly. "You didn't think I'd come, did you?" Makira stepped back slightly, instinctively wrapping her arms around her chest. I didn't know you were in town. That's the idea, Nena replied. Unannounced visits reveal the truth. Isn't that what you city wives fear the most? Chief Obin dropped the broom and stepped forward. His face lit up. Nena, he greeted. You look strong as ever. She gave a small nod. And you haven't changed, still pretending to be invisible. They both smiled, briefly, knowingly. Makira watched them, confused. Something didn't feel right. Why are you here, Mama? She asked, voice cautious now. To see my son, Nena said. And his wife. Or is that a problem? Makira forced a laugh. No. I didn't expect you. Nena walked past her into the mansion without waiting for an invitation. Her eyes scanned the surroundings quickly, the gold-plated decor, the glass chandelier, the large framed wedding photos. She stopped by one picture of Makira in a white gown. Nena said. Pretty dress. But a dress doesn't make a wife. Makira clenched her jaw. Nena turned to face her. Where is my son? Makira opened her mouth to respond, then hesitated. Something was shifting in the air. She could feel it. He's not home yet, she said. He had some business meetings. Nena raised a brow. Good. That gives me time to look around. Look around? Makira asked, suddenly defensive. Yes, Nena replied. Every mother has the right to inspect the nest her son sleeps in. Especially when snakes may be hiding in it. Makira blinked. What do you mean by that? She asked slowly. But Nena didn't answer. Instead, she moved through the house like she owned it, touching nothing, but observing everything. Makira's heart beat faster. She tried to smile, to stay calm, but something inside her whispered, this isn't just a visit. Something was coming. And she wasn't ready for it. The rain had stopped. The clouds began to clear, but the tension inside the mansion only grew heavier. Makira stood in the living room, her hands nervously fidgeting with the hem of her blouse. Mama Nena was upstairs, walking slowly through the hallways as if she had all the time in the world. Her footsteps were soft, but each one echoed loudly in Makira's ears. Makira whispered to the housekeeper, is the guest room ready? The housekeeper nodded. Yes, madam. I placed her things inside. Makira forced a smile. Good. Make sure she's comfortable. But inside, Makira wasn't smiling. She picked up her phone and typed a message to the unknown number she had deleted earlier. Call me. Something's wrong. His mother is here. No response. She was about to type again when Nena's voice rang out from upstairs. Makira. Makira flinched. Yes, Mama, she answered, trying to sound calm. Come upstairs. Now. Makira swallowed hard and made her way up the stairs, her heels clicking too loudly. When she reached the master bedroom, the door was wide open. Nena stood in front of the dressing mirror, holding a small gold chain between her fingers. This yours? She asked. Makira stepped inside. Yes. It's just a necklace. Nena looked at her through the mirror. I remember when I gave Chijioke a necklace just like this. It was mine, passed down from my grandmother. I told him to keep it safe. He said he would give it to the woman he trusted most. Makira blinked, caught off guard. Oh, maybe this is it. Nena turned fully toward her. Is it? Makira shrugged. I don't know. He gives me a lot of things. Nena's face didn't change. Do you give him anything? Makira laughed lightly. Of course. I'm his wife. Nena stepped closer. But are you his partner? She asked. Or his plan? Makira's smile faded. Mama, I don't understand. Nena's voice hardened. I know how women like you operate in this city. I've watched girls enter families like termites, eating from the inside while smiling sweetly outside. I may be old, but I've seen things. Makira took a step back. I'm not here for games, Nena continued. I'm here because my son's eyes are opening. You may still be dancing, but the music is slowing down. Makira forced a shaky laugh. Mama, I think you're misunderstanding me. No, Nena said sharply. I'm warning you. She dropped the necklace on the table. Whatever you're planning, end it. Before it ends you. Silence. Makira's chest rose and fell quickly. Her lips parted to speak, but no words came out. Nena turned and began to walk out. But just as she reached the doorway, she paused and looked over her shoulder. Be careful, Makira. When a lion starts watching you, it doesn't blink. Then she walked away. Makira stood frozen in the room. Her heart was racing. Her thoughts scattered. She didn't know what was worse, the fact that Mama Nena had shown up uninvited. Or that Jijiok might already know everything. The city lights flickered to life as dusk crept in, washing everything in gold and shadow. Makira sat alone in the corner of her walk-in closet, her knees pulled up, her phone tightly clutched in her hand. She had stared at the screen for nearly an hour, waiting. The anonymous number that had once brought her confidence and direction had now gone silent. No texts. No calls. Nothing. She dialed it again. Switched off. She tried again. Number unavailable. Her heartbeat quickened. That wasn't normal. He always responded. Always. Makira stood up suddenly, walked to her vanity mirror, and stared at her reflection. Her eyes were tired. Her makeup had faded. The once unshakable confidence she wore like perfume was starting to wash off. She picked up her second phone, a secret one she kept hidden behind her wardrobe drawer, and opened the encrypted app. There were messages from 2 weeks ago. All from Lex. Don't worry. Once he wires the money, I'll handle the rest. You're doing well. He's still blinded by love. The old man suspects nothing. But now, the app showed a red notification, account inactive. Her stomach turned. Something was wrong. And she needed answers. Fast. The next morning, Makira dressed simply in jeans, sneakers, and a large black hoodie, the kind of outfit that made her invisible in public. She left the mansion before sunrise, telling the housekeeper she was going to the spa. But instead, she drove through the back roads of the city, past the noisy car parks, the crowded junctions, and the street hawkers yelling over each other. She pulled into a quiet compound, a block of flats with faded paint and a crooked gate. She took the stairs up to the 3rd floor. Flat 3C. She knocked 3 times in a pattern. No answer. She knocked again. Still nothing. Then, just as she turned to leave, she heard a door creak, not from 3C, but from across the hall. An old woman stepped out. She had tired eyes, a wrapper tied tightly around her chest, and chewing stick in her mouth. You day find Kelvin? Makira froze. Sorry, what? The boy we day live there, the woman pointed at 3C, Kelvin. He no day here again. Na 2 men come carry him. Carry him? Makira asked, her voice trembling. The woman nodded. 2 men. Big chest. 1 wear suit. 1 carry 1 black bag. DM no even knock. Just enter. Kelvin try talk but DM say make no struggle. I look through my curtain. Fear catch me. They lock the door after DM comment. Makira's legs suddenly felt weak. Did they say where they were taking him? She asked, voice low. The woman shrugged. No. But one of them say, you two talk. Now it's time to answer. Makira turned back to the door of flat 3C. It was locked tight. No sound inside. No signs of life. Kelvin, the man behind the anonymous number, the man who had promised her a future, who had directed the fake accounts and written the scripts, was gone. Taken. She staggered back to her car, locked the doors, and sat in silence. This wasn't just a small mess anymore. This was bigger. Smarter. Deeper. Someone else was watching. Someone else was moving the pieces now. She looked at her reflection in the rearview mirror. What if Chijiok already knows, and he's hunting us one by one? The city was already busy that morning. Honking cars, shouting bus conductors, and street hawkers filled every corner with noise. But inside Chijiok's mansion, it was quiet, too quiet. Chief Obin was in the small boys' quarters where he had stayed for weeks, wearing the same faded kaftan, holding his walking stick, and cleaning the compound like an ordinary gateman. But today, he wasn't sweeping. He was sitting on a plastic chair behind the gatehouse, facing a man in a brown leather jacket. The man was tall, dark-skinned, with a small scar above his right eyebrow. "Chief, I need to ask again," the man said. "Are you sure she hasn't found out?" Chief Obin nodded slowly. "Not yet. She still sees me as a useless old man with a limp." The man smirked. If only she knew. Chief Obin's eyes hardened. That's the point. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out an ID card. It had a government seal on it. National Intelligence Officer. Name, Obina Chijiok Sr. Rank, Deputy Director, retired. The man looked impressed. "You still carry that?" Chief Obin smiled. "Some badges never lose their power." He continued, "I may be retired, but this is personal. My son's money didn't fall from the sky. I built the first blocks with my own sweat. I know bloodsuckers when I see them. And Makira is more dangerous than she looks." The man leaned forward. "You think she's working alone?" "No," Chief Obin replied. "There's a web around her. But one spider is missing." "Kelvin?" Chief Obin nodded. "Yes. He disappeared 2 days ago. But before he vanished, I had already traced some of his calls." He reached into a small bag beside him and pulled out a recorder. "I bugged the flower vase in the main living room," he said. "She talks when she thinks no one is listening." The man nodded. "What have you heard?" Chief Obin pressed play. Makara's voice came through, clear but shaky. "I don't care how risky it is. Just do it. Once the documents are signed, I'll make sure the transfer goes through. Yes, I'm still pretending. He still trusts me." "The old man?" "Harmless. He sweeps the floor. No, I can't back out now. Not after everything I've given up." Chief Obin paused the recorder. "She has a plan," he said. "She wants control over Chijiok's private company account, the one I helped him hide under a fake shell. She thinks she's smart." The man folded his arms. "What's your next move?" Chief Obin looked up toward the mansion. "Now, I begin to make her doubt herself. When a lion wants to catch a fox, he doesn't roar. He waits." The gate buzzed suddenly. A delivery van stopped in front. Makira stepped out of the house, looking confused. "Did I order anything?" she asked the driver. The man smiled. "From CHS Global Bank, Ma. You requested a file for property verification and signature." Makira blinked. "No. I didn't." But before she could speak again, the driver handed her a sealed envelope and drove off. Inside the envelope were copies of secret company documents, one she had mentioned only to Kelvin over a private call. Her hand shook. She looked around. "Who is watching me?" she whispered. Back behind the gate, Chief Obin smiled and whispered to himself. "Let the dance begin." The mansion felt colder than usual. Makira stood in front of her dressing mirror, staring at herself, but the reflection didn't comfort her like before. Her foundation couldn't hide the fine lines forming under her eyes. Her lip gloss looked dull. Her once confident posture seemed unsure now. She was slipping. She knew it. But she didn't know who was pulling the rug from under her feet. The mysterious file delivery that morning had shaken her to the core. The documents were real, confidential, and dangerous. Documents about Chijiok's hidden company, the one Kelvin had promised they'd quietly take control of. Only Kelvin had access. Only he and Chijiok, maybe? She had burned the envelope the moment she opened it. Then she deleted the text trail from her burner phone and shut it off. But she knew, deep in her gut, that it was already too late. Someone was inside her circle. Watching. Listening. Or worse, testing her. Later that day, she walked into the kitchen where the housekeeper, Mama Peace, was chopping onions. Makira forced a smile. Mama Peace, how long has that old Gateman been with us now? Mama Peace blinked. You mean Papa J? Makira nodded. Yes. Him. Mama Peace wiped her hands. Well, he showed up 1 month ago when Olga said we needed someone trustworthy to help around the compound. Did he bring any papers? ID? Mama Peace laughed. Ah, madam, it's not every old man that carries IDO. But Olga said his family friend. Even talk anything when he moved in. Makira turned away. I just forgot. Her mind raced. Something about that old man had always felt off. Too quiet. Too present. Too observant. She remembered once dropping her earring on the patio. By the time she turned to pick it up, he was already handing it to her with that same half-smile and sharp stare. She'd assumed he was just a harmless old man. But what if he wasn't? What if that broom in his hand was hiding something sharper? That night, Makira locked herself in the study. She opened her laptop, put on headphones, and tapped into one of her old contacts, a cyber ghost named Shadowbase. A black screen appeared. Then white text typed out. Who do you want background on? She typed fast. Papa Jade Gateman. Real name. Background. Connections. Anything. The screen blinked. Then. Give me 24 hours. Leave your device on. She exhaled. Just then, she heard a knock. She jumped. Who is it? It's me, Chijiok's voice came through. Can I come in? She quickly minimized the window, unplugged the laptop, and forced a smile before opening the door. Chijiok stood there in his joggers and t-shirt, looking more relaxed than usual. You okay? He asked. Makira nodded. Yes, just going through some designs. He stepped in, looked around. You've been quiet lately. She walked over to him. I've just had a lot on my mind. He took her hand. Makira could feel her pulse quicken as she stood in front of Chijiok. His gaze was steady, his expression unreadable. But beneath his calm demeanor, she could feel the weight of his unspoken words pressing against her. She squeezed his hand tightly, forcing a smile. I've just been stressed with work, you know how it is, she said, trying to sound normal. But I'm fine. Chijiok didn't seem convinced, but he let it slide. All right, if you need anything, just let me know. I'll be in the office for a while. He turned and walked out, but before he reached the door, he stopped and looked back at her. His eyes narrowed ever so slightly. Makira, he said softly, almost too quietly. You're not hiding anything from me, are you? The question hit her like a blow to the chest. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. But she forced the words out, her voice calm despite the storm brewing inside. No, of course not. Why would I? Chijiok gave her one last look, then stepped out, leaving her alone in the study. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. But even though his question seemed casual, it was clear to her that Chijiok was beginning to suspect something. She knew him too well. His silence wasn't just curiosity, it was suspicion. He was testing her. Makira wasted no time. As soon as he left, she rushed back to her laptop, booting it up and waiting anxiously for Shadowbase's response. Minutes passed like hours, until finally, a new message appeared. Papa J, a real name, Obina Chijiok Sr. Former National Intelligence Officer. Retired. Connections, high-profile government ties. Suspected involvement in undercover operations for over 40 years. Current location, your compound. Makira stared at the screen, the blood draining from her face. National Intelligence Officer. Her mind raced. This old man, the one who had been sweeping her driveway, cleaning the windows, and quietly watching over the house, was someone's eyes and ears. But whose? And why had Chijioke never mentioned his father's real identity? Did he know? Or was he just as much in the dark as she was? Before she could digest the information, her phone buzzed on the desk. She picked it up and glanced at the screen. It was a message from Kelvin's number. Her heart skipped a beat. It was a simple text, but it sent a chill down her spine. Makira, you're being watched. Someone's onto you. The blood drained from her face. Kelvin's words confirmed her worst fears. She wasn't the only one being cautious now. Everyone was watching. But who could it be? Could it be Chijioke's father? Could he know everything? Or was there someone else pulling the strings behind the scenes? The following day, Chijioke left for a meeting, and Makira was alone in the house. She paced around the living room, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and fear. She needed answers, fast. She couldn't keep playing this game of cat and mouse. She needed to control the situation. She grabbed her phone and sent a message to Shadowbase, asking for more information on Chief Obina Chijioke. Minutes later, another message came through. Be careful. I traced his financial accounts. They're linked to several offshore accounts under various aliases. The old man has more power than you realize. Makira's hands trembled as she read the message. The thought that Chief Obin had hidden resources and connections in offshore accounts meant one thing: he was prepared. Whatever game they were playing, he had already made his move. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Makira froze. She wasn't expecting anyone. She walked cautiously to the door, peeking through the peephole. A man in a black suit stood outside, holding a clipboard. She opened the door just slightly. Can I help you? The man smiled, but it was too tight, too calculated. I'm from the city council. We're here to inspect the property for tax purposes. Makira hesitated. This wasn't normal. The city council didn't just show up unannounced to inspect properties, especially not in the middle of the week. I wasn't informed, she said, keeping her voice calm. The man didn't flinch. It's routine. We can't waste time. If you don't mind, we'll need to do a quick inspection. Before she could object, he pushed the door open slightly wider. Too wide. Makira took a step back. I'll need to call my husband first. The man stepped inside, ignoring her request. I'm sure your husband will be fine with it. We'll be quick. She backed away, her heart racing. Something wasn't right. And then, as he entered the living room, Makira noticed something in his pocket, a small, sleek device that didn't belong to a city inspector. It looked like a listening device. Her body went cold. The walls were closing in. There was no escaping this now. She had to act. But what was her next move? As the man moved through the house, Makira's mind whirled. Could Chijioke's father be behind this sudden inspection? Or was there someone even more powerful trying to force her hand? With every passing second, it became clearer someone was trying to break her. She couldn't wait for anyone to rescue her. It was time to stop being the pawn. Makira needed to take control. The atmosphere in the house had grown tense. Makira moved quietly through the rooms, her thoughts racing faster than her footsteps. The inspector from the city council had left, but his visit left behind a lingering unease that Makira couldn't shake. She had to act fast, and the walls of this mansion suddenly felt like they were closing in on her. She knew Chijioke would be home soon, but she had no idea what to expect when he walked through that door. Would he know what had happened? Would he be angry? Or would he be just as confused as she was, stuck in the game she'd gotten them both tangled in? But what scared her most was the silence, the distance between them that seemed to grow with every passing day. It wasn't long before the sound of the front door opening echoed through the house. Makira's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly smoothed her hair and tried to calm herself before stepping into the hallway. Chiji-ok stood there, removing his jacket and tossing it on the coat rack. He looked tired, but there was something different in his eyes. Makira met his gaze and smiled faintly. "You're home early." He didn't smile back. Instead, he walked towards her, his footsteps deliberate and heavy. "Makira," he said, his voice low. "We need to talk." Her stomach tightened. This was it. The moment of truth. About what? She asked, though she already knew the answer. About everything, Chiji-ok said, running a hand through his hair. "I've been hearing things. Things I didn't expect." Makira took a deep breath. "What kind of things?" Chiji-ok stopped in front of her, looking directly into her eyes. "I know about the documents. I know you've been hiding things from me, and I can't pretend like everything's fine anymore." Her pulse quickened. So, he knew. "Chiji-ok, Let me finish," he cut her off. "I didn't want to believe it, but now, I can't ignore it. I've been hearing rumors. About my father. About you. About everything." Makira froze. Chiji-ok knew about his father? How much did he know? And more importantly, how much of it was true? "Chiji-ok, she struggled to find the right words. "I didn't mean to hide things from you. I was trying to protect you. All of this, it's bigger than I thought." Chiji-ok looked at her for a long moment, his eyes piercing through her. Then, unexpectedly, he sighed and ran a hand over his face. "I've been trying to figure out who I can trust," he said quietly. "I don't know if it's you or my father. But I know one thing, everything I've built is at risk. I feel like I'm losing control." The words hit Makira harder than she expected. Was Chiji-ok really questioning everything? Could he really trust his father? Could she trust him? "Do you trust me?" she asked before she could stop herself. Chiji-ok was silent for a moment, staring at the floor. "I don't know who to trust anymore. But I'm trying to understand why you've kept so much from me. Why did you lie?" Makira's heart raced. This was not the conversation she had imagined. She had never expected to be questioned like this by Chiji-ok, the man she had been so careful to please, so careful to protect. "I didn't lie," she said, her voice shaking. "I just didn't tell you everything. The things I've been dealing with, the people I've been talking to. I was trying to keep you safe. From all of it." Chiji-ok's gaze softened for a moment. "Safe from who? My father? Kelvin? Or from me?" Makira's mind spun as she searched for the right answer. What was the truth? How could she explain what she had uncovered without tearing everything apart? "Chiji-ok, there are things going on behind the scenes that you don't know about. Things your father has been involved in for years. Things that I don't know how to protect you from." He was silent again, his face clouded with confusion. "Makira, what are you talking about? What do you know?" She took a deep breath. This was it. There was no turning back now. Your father, he's not just the gateman. He's not just a simple man in the background. He has ties to people, powerful people. He has secrets, and so do you. Chiji-ok's face hardened, but Makira could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. He wasn't ready to hear this. "I'm trying to protect you, Chiji-ok," she said, her voice growing stronger. "But I can't do it alone. I need you to trust me, just like I've trusted you." Chiji-ok took a step back. "Trust you?" His voice was incredulous. "You've been hiding everything from me, Makira. You think I can just trust you now?" The hurt in his voice cut through her like a knife. Makira's chest tightened as she watched him. She could feel the distance between them growing wider. She had always believed in their love, in their ability to overcome anything together. But now, she wasn't so sure. "I'm not hiding everything," she said quietly. "I'm just trying to protect us from the storm that's coming. And trust me, Chiji-ok, it's already here." Chiji-ok didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned and walked toward the study, his footsteps heavy, the weight of his own uncertainty evident in the way he moved. Makira watched him leave, her heart sinking deeper. She had told him the truth, but in doing so, she had only pushed him further away. Later that night, as Makira lay in bed, the sounds of the city outside seemed to grow louder, more oppressive. She tossed and turned, unable to sleep. She had done what she could, but now, all she could do was wait. Was Chijioke still the man she had married? Or had the weight of his father's secrets changed him forever? And what would happen if he couldn't trust her anymore? The next morning, Makira received a message. It wasn't from Chijioke. It wasn't from Kelvin. It was from Papa J. The message read simply, "I know what you're doing. You should stop. Before it's too late." Makira's fingers trembled as she stared at the message on her phone. Papa J had sent her another cryptic warning. "I know what you're doing. You should stop. Before it's too late." The words gnawed at her. She had no idea what too late meant, but one thing was certain, someone knew exactly what she was doing. And they didn't want her to continue. She sat up, her mind racing. The storm had already hit, and now it was only a matter of time before it swallowed her whole. She had tried to play her cards carefully, but with every move she made, the stakes seemed to get higher. Her heart pounded in her chest. The stakes weren't just about her anymore, it was about Chijioke, too. Could she really protect him from everything that was unfolding around them? The message from Papa J had shaken her to the core. She thought she'd figured everything out, that she had control of the situation. But now, it was clear, there were pieces of the puzzle that were far beyond her reach. Makira could feel the walls closing in, suffocating her. The past few days had been a whirlwind of confusion and fear, and she didn't know how much longer she could keep pretending that everything was fine. But she wasn't ready to give up yet. Not when there was still so much at stake. Later that day, Makira decided to confront the one person who might know the most about what was going on. Kelvin. They hadn't spoken much in the past few weeks, but she knew he was involved in this somehow. He had always been close to Chijioke's father, Papa J. There had to be something he wasn't telling her. Something important. Makira knew it was risky to reach out to him, but she had no other choice. She needed answers. She needed to know just how deep this game went. She dialed his number, waiting anxiously as it rang. "Hello?" Kelvin's voice came through, low and cautious. "Kelvin," she said, her voice firm but calm. "I need to talk to you. In person. Now." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then, finally, he spoke. "All right. I'll meet you at the usual spot in an hour." The line went dead. Makira felt a mix of dread and relief wash over her. She wasn't sure what she would find out, but she knew it was time to face the truth. She had no more time to waste. An hour later, Makira arrived at the small cafe on the edge of the city. It was a quiet, inconspicuous place, the perfect spot for a secret meeting. She glanced around, her eyes scanning the tables until she saw him sitting in the back corner, his eyes fixed on his phone. Kelvin looked up as she approached, giving her a small, almost nervous smile. She slid into the seat across from him, not bothering with pleasantries. "Talk to me, Kelvin," she said, her tone sharp. "What's going on? What do you know about Papa J?" Kelvin's face tightened, and for a moment, he didn't say anything. His fingers drummed lightly on the table, as if he were weighing the consequences of telling her what she wanted to hear. "Makira," he began slowly, his voice low. "Papa J is not just some old man in the background. He's the key to everything. He's been running things for years, and I've been a part of it for far too long." Makira's eyes widened. She hadn't expected him to admit this so easily, but hearing the words come out of his mouth confirmed something she had feared for a long time. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "What kind of things?" Kelvin leaned forward, his voice dropping even lower. "You need to understand, Makira, Papa J has connections to everyone. Politicians, businessmen, even people in the underworld. He's been using those connections to manipulate situations to his advantage. And if you think Chijioke doesn't know, you're wrong. He's been involved in this, too. But he doesn't see the bigger picture. Makara's stomach churned. Chijioke? He's involved? He knows. Kelvin nodded grimly. He knows more than you think. But he's too blinded by his own ambitions to see how dangerous his father really is. Papa J has been playing both sides for years, controlling everything from the shadows. Makira felt a cold sweat break out on the back of her neck. So, what does this have to do with me? Kelvin hesitated. It has everything to do with you. You're in the middle of this now, whether you like it or not. Papa J sees you as a threat. You're not just Chijioke's wife anymore, you're a pawn in a much bigger game. And if you don't play your cards right, you'll be discarded, just like everyone else who's gotten in his way. Makara's mind reeled as the weight of Kelvin's words settled over her. She had thought she was the one in control, but now it was clear Papa J had been pulling the strings all along. She looked up at Kelvin, her eyes filled with a mixture of anger and fear. What do I do now? How do I get out of this? Kelvin's eyes flickered with something like regret. You can't get out of it, Makira. Not unless you make a dangerous alliance. Makira stared at him, confused. An alliance? An alliance with the right people, Kelvin said, his voice heavy with meaning. People who can match Papa J's power. But be warned, this game is more dangerous than you think. And once you're in, there's no turning back. Makira took a deep breath. The choice seemed impossible. But she knew deep down that she had no other option. It was time to play her own game. As the conversation ended and Makira left the cafe, the weight of the decision hung over her. She had never imagined herself in a world of secrets and lies this deep. But now, there was no turning back. She had to be careful who she trusted. But she also had to be bold. This was her fight now. Later that night, Makira stood in front of the mirror, her reflection staring back at her. Who was she really? Was she the woman who had been swept up in the power of Chijioke's wealth? Or was she something else entirely, someone who could take control and rewrite her own destiny? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain, the game had just begun. The moon hung high in the night sky, its pale light spilling over the city like a silent observer. Below, the streets were alive with the usual hum of activity, the night shift workers, the late-night taxis, and the hum of distant voices in the open-air bars. But in Makara's apartment, the silence was suffocating. She stood by the window, her eyes tracing the distant skyline, her thoughts tangled in a web of uncertainty. The conversation with Kelvin earlier had left her shaken. The truth he had revealed about Papa J's control over everything, from business dealings to the very pulse of the city, had taken root in her mind. She couldn't stop thinking about it, couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling that something even darker was lurking in the shadows. The choice she faced now wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about power. Power she could no longer avoid, no longer deny. She glanced at the clock. 1 hour. That was the time she had until she was supposed to meet Kelvin again. He told her to prepare for the most dangerous decision of her life. She didn't know what that meant, but one thing was clear, she couldn't back down now. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. She turned, startled, and walked quickly toward it. When she opened the door, she found herself face to face with a figure she hadn't expected, Chijioke's father, Papa J. His presence sent a chill down her spine. Papa J was dressed simply, in the same white flowing gown he had worn when they had their previous conversation. His sharp, calculating eyes never wavered as he studied her. He was a man used to control, a man who had always known the power he wielded. Makira, he said, his voice low but carrying the weight of authority. We need to talk. Makira swallowed, her heart pounding in her chest. She stepped aside, allowing him to enter. As he walked past her, she caught a glimpse of the resolve in his eyes. This wasn't a friendly visit. You've been busy, Papa J continued, settling into the chair by the window. I've seen the way you've been looking at things differently. But you don't understand the game you're playing. Makira clenched her fists at her sides, trying to keep her composure. She couldn't show weakness now. She had to be strong. "What game?" she asked, her voice steady. "I'm not interested in playing anyone's game, Papa J." Papa J chuckled darkly. "Oh, my dear, you've already played it. You just don't know it yet. And trust me, you're in deeper than you realize." Makira narrowed her eyes. "What do you want from me?" "What I've always wanted," he said, leaning forward slightly. "For you to be part of this family. To truly understand the power behind it. You're Chiji-oak's wife, and you will soon be the mother of his children. It's time for you to understand the rules. The rules that have kept this family on top for generations." Makira's stomach tightened. The weight of his words felt suffocating. She had always known that Chiji-oak's family held secrets, but this was something far more menacing. The mention of her children was no coincidence. "Chiji-oak doesn't know everything, does he?" she asked, her voice low. Papa J's eyes flashed. "You think he's the one in control?" "He's my son, yes, but he's still learning." "You think he's ready to lead? Ready to carry the weight of this family?" "He's not. And that's where you come in." Makira stood up straighter, feeling the tension rise in the room. "What do you mean?" "You have power, Makira," Papa J said, his voice smooth but dangerous. "Power that you haven't even begun to tap into. Chiji-oak may be my son, but you are the key to everything. With you on our side, everything will fall into place. You'll see how it all works. How it all falls into the right hands." Her pulse quickened. This was it. The moment she had feared was here. Papa J was making his play, and she had to decide whether she would accept it or fight against it. Makira felt the weight of the decision bear down on her. She had always thought she was just a player in this game. But now, she realized that she was more than just a pawn. She could choose. She could make a choice that would change the entire course of her life. 1,000 thoughts ran through her mind. She thought of Chiji-oak, of their marriage, of the love they shared, a love that seemed so pure, so real. But could it survive the darkness of this world Papa J had revealed to her? She wanted to protect Chiji-oak, but could she do that without losing herself in the process? Would choosing Papa J's side destroy everything she had worked for? "Think carefully, Makira," Papa J said, his voice cutting through her thoughts. "The time is coming. Your choice will either elevate you or leave you crushed beneath the weight of this world." Makira stood there, paralyzed by the enormity of it all. She wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. How could she choose between love and power? Between the man she had married and the man who had built everything around her? The silence in the room grew heavy, almost suffocating. And then, as if on instinct, Makira spoke. "I need time to think." Papa J smiled, his eyes glinting with something dangerous. "Take all the time you need, my dear. But remember, time is the one thing you don't have." With that, he turned and walked out of the room, leaving Makira standing in the middle of the apartment, alone with her thoughts. The hours that followed were a blur. Makira couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. She walked around her apartment, restlessly pacing, the weight of the decision pressing on her from all sides. Her mind was a storm of confusion, but amidst the chaos, one thing remained clear: she had to make a choice. And it would change everything. The next day, Makira found herself standing in front of the same cafe where she had met Kelvin the day before. This time, she wasn't just looking for answers, she was looking for a way forward. Kelvin was already there, waiting for her, his eyes sharp as he saw her approach. "Makira," he said, standing as she sat across from him. "You look like you've made up your mind." Makira didn't answer immediately. She simply stared at him, her eyes clouded with uncertainty. "I'm ready," she said quietly. "I'm ready to make my move." Kelvin nodded, his expression unreadable. "Then let's begin. But be warned, this will change everything." The words hung in the air like a promise, a warning, and a curse all rolled into one. The sun was setting, casting a warm, golden glow over the city as Makira stepped out of the cafe. She could feel the weight of the decision she had just made settling in her chest. There was no going back now. The path ahead was set, but its consequences were unknown. Kelvin had given her a glimpse into a world that she had been blind to. He had shown her the depth of Papa J's manipulation, and now Makira was more determined than ever to play her part. But the more she thought about it, the more the shadows of doubt crept in. Was she making the right decision? Would Chijiok ever understand what she had done? Or would he see her as the betrayer? Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. The message was from Chijiok. "I need to see you. Something's come up." Makira's heart skipped a beat. What was happening? Chijiok hadn't sounded this serious in days. His last message had been filled with casual affection, but this one was different. She glanced around, her eyes scanning the street, her mind racing. Could he know something? Had Papa Jade already told him everything? Without a second thought, she tapped on her phone screen and quickly texted back, "I'll meet you at the usual place." 10 minutes. As she headed towards the location where they often met, a knot tightened in her stomach. Her footsteps quickened as she neared the familiar building, the place where she and Chijiok had spent so many quiet moments. But today, everything felt different. When she arrived, Chijiok was already there, standing in front of the building, his posture tense. He looked up as she approached, his face shadowed with something she couldn't quite place. His eyes were searching hers, as though trying to gauge her every emotion. "Makira," he said softly, his voice carrying an edge of concern. "We need to talk." She nodded, but her heart was thudding in her chest. What was going on? Why was he acting this way? "What happened, Chijiok?" she asked, her voice shaky despite her efforts to sound calm. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked around them, as though ensuring no one was listening. His eyes then locked onto hers with an intensity that made her heart race. "I've been hearing things," he began, his voice quiet but firm. "Things that don't sit right with me." Makira's pulse quickened. She didn't want to jump to conclusions, but she knew in her gut that something was off. "What things?" she asked carefully, her voice a whisper now. "About you, Makira," he said, his words slow and deliberate. "About the choices you've been making. People have been talking. And I'm starting to wonder, do I even know you anymore?" Makira felt her blood run cold. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice trembling now. His eyes were searching hers, as if trying to find a sign that she was hiding something. "I'm hearing rumors, Makira. Rumors that you've been meeting with Kelvin. That you're involved in something dangerous. Something you've been hiding from me." Makira's mind went blank. She had been so careful, so sure that she had covered her tracks. But Chijiok had seen through her, just as Papa J had warned. She opened her mouth to speak, to deny it all, but the words wouldn't come. "You've been lying to me, haven't you?" Chijiok said, his voice rising now, his face hardening with anger and hurt. "I trusted you, Makira. I thought you were on my side. But now I see everything clearly. You've been working against me. For Papa J." Makira's heart shattered. She had always feared this moment, but never imagined it would come so suddenly. She had tried to protect him from the truth, tried to shield him from the dark world she was now a part of. But it was too late. He knew. "Chijiok, please," she whispered, stepping toward him, her hands reaching out for him. "I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted you to know." "Then why didn't you tell me the truth?" he demanded, his voice shaking with emotion. "Why did you keep secrets from me? We're supposed to be partners in this. I thought we were a team." Tears blurred her vision, and she swallowed hard. "I didn't want you to be involved, Chijiok. I didn't want you to become like them. Like Papa J." His eyes softened slightly at the mention of his father, but the anger still burned in his gaze. "You should have trusted me, Makira. We could have handled it together." The silence that followed was thick and heavy, a rift forming between them that seemed too wide to bridge. But there was more, something even deeper that Makira wasn't ready to admit yet. The truth she had hidden from herself, the truth she had been too afraid to face. She wasn't just tangled in a web of lies anymore. She was trapped in a game with no way out. And then, just when she thought she couldn't take it any longer, Chidgeok spoke again, his voice low and filled with a sense of resignation. I can't do this, Makira. I can't pretend like everything is fine. I need to know the truth. Who are you really working for? Makira's heart stuttered in her chest. She opened her mouth to say something, anything, but the words died in her throat. How could she answer him? How could she tell him the truth when she had already become a part of a world so dark, so unforgiving, that there was no turning back? She began, but then the words faltered. Chidgeok's eyes hardened, his disappointment cutting deeper than anything else. If you can't be honest with me now, then maybe we're not meant to be together. With those words, Chidgeok turned and walked away, leaving Makira standing alone in the empty street, her mind spinning. The choice had been made. There was no going back now. Makira stood there, her breath coming in shallow gasps. She had made her decision, but the consequences were far greater than she had ever imagined. She had sacrificed everything for the power she thought she wanted, but now she was left with nothing. And she was about to find out that the cost of betrayal was more than she could ever afford.